You know, when you dig into the book of Revelation, there's this one specific time frame that keeps popping up over and over: 1,260 days. But here's the big question. Is that all one single period, or is it actually two? Today we're going to unpack the evidence for two distinct back-to-back periods. And honestly, seeing it this way might just change how you understand the entire end times narrative.
Okay, let's get right into it. You've got 1,260 days, then you see 42 months, and then this phrase, a time, times, and half a time. They all add up to 3.5 years. So are they all describing the same continuous block of time, or are they pointing to something a little more complex, maybe two separate phases? Well, the answer is hiding in the details, so let's see what the scripture actually reveals.
So let's start by looking at the evidence for that first period. What really defines this phase are the main characters on the stage and the unique spiritual battle that's taking place. This first period is like a massive spiritual tug-of-war. On one side, you have the harlot. She's this powerful symbol of a corrupt, seductive world system, using wealth and pleasure to fool the nations. And look, she's riding and influencing the beast. But on the other side, you've got the two witnesses, who stand as this powerful countervoice, speaking God's truth to challenge everything she represents.
And the Bible is incredibly specific about the time frame for their work. Revelation 11 verse 3 says, "For exactly 1,260 days, these two witnesses are given divine authority to prophesy and stand against this corrupt system." Now here is what makes this first period so unique. It's not just that the witnesses are prophesying, it's that they are doing it under this incredible, absolute shield of divine protection. And this is so important because it shows us that God is deliberately preserving his public testimony, making it invincible for a set amount of time, no matter how hostile the world gets. I mean, the text could not be any clearer on this. This protection is total. They cannot be harmed, they can't be silenced, and they absolutely cannot be killed. Well, at least not until their 1,260-day ministry is completely finished. Now remember that point. It's absolutely crucial for what's coming next.
Okay, so let's shift gears to the second period and see how a very different picture starts to emerge. The whole atmosphere just changes dramatically, from this subtle deception to just open, forceful domination.
This next period, which is described as lasting 42 months, yep, the exact same length of time, is dominated by one single figure: the beast. This is the same guy the harlot was riding, but now he has risen up to take direct control himself. He represents this global system of coercive political and religious power that demands nothing less than total allegiance.
And again, right there in Revelation 13, verse 5, Scripture confirms the time frame. But pay attention to the language. Authority is given to him to act. The power dynamic has completely flipped. He is now the one calling the shots.
And this right here is the defining feature of this second phase. This is where it gets really interesting. Remember how the witnesses were supernaturally protected? Well, now the saints are being directly targeted for persecution. The beast's entire reign is marked by open blasphemy in a violent worldwide war against God's people.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the key action of the beast. His authority isn't just for show, it's terrifyingly real. Revelation 13, verse 7 tells us he successfully makes war on the saints and overcomes them. This is the complete polar opposite of the situation with the two witnesses.
So, you've got two periods, both the same length. Why couldn't they just be happening at the same time? Well, when we look closer at the text, we find a fundamental contradiction that makes that pretty much impossible.
So here it is, the crucial point. It's a logical impossibility. You just can't have a period where God's messengers are divinely protected from being killed, overlapping with a period where the enemy is explicitly given the authority to kill God's people. It just doesn't work. One of these conditions has to end for the other one to begin.
And Revelation 11, verse 7, gives us the exact transition point. It says, "When they have finished their testimony, the beast will kill them." See? Their death isn't just some tragic event, it's the pivot point. It marks the precise end of their protected ministry and the beginning of the beast's reign of terror.
And you know what? We see the exact same logical sequence with the harlot and the beast. In the early phase, she's in charge, she's influencing things, riding the beast. But in a later phase, the scripture says the beast and his allies will literally turn on her, hate her, and completely destroy her. So clearly, a state of being supported and a state of being destroyed, well, they can't exist at the same time.
So when we resolve these contradictions, when we place the events in order instead of trying to stack them on top of each other, a much clearer, way more logical timeline comes into focus. It's a story of progression, from one kind of evil to another.
And here it is laid out. The first 1,260 days, that's all about the harlot's seductive influence and the witness's protected countervoice. Then you hit that violent midpoint transition where the witnesses are finally killed and the harlot is overthrown. And that act kicks off the second 1,260 days, those 42 months of the beast's direct, coercive reign and open persecution. This table really just sums it all up perfectly. Let's just pause here for a second. In that first period, the big power is the harlot, the voice of truth is divinely protected, and the main method of control is deception. Then in the second period, the beast reigns alone, the voice of truth is violently persecuted, and the method of control switches to open coercion. I mean, the differences are just night and day. They're stark and they're undeniable.
So what's the big takeaway here? Why does all this matter? Well, when you recognize this sequence, it helps you read Revelation not as this confusing jumble of symbols all happening at once, but as a deliberate story. It shows a clear progression, from a time of widespread spiritual deception that's being countered by a protected church, to a time of overt tyranny that tests the endurance of the saints to the absolute very end. Understanding this two-act structure brings incredible clarity to the entire unfolding of God's sovereign plan.